The story begins in Brightburn, Kansas, a small town where Kyle and Tori Breyer, a married couple, unwind at home. They are in bed, sharing a moment, and Kyle hopes that this time they might finally have a baby. Tori, on the other hand, has grown weary of raising her expectations and is content to simply relish their time together. Suddenly, a tremor shakes the house. Tori gets up to check, but the shaking stops until a loud crash outside grabs their attention. They rush to the window and see a bright red light glowing in the distance. Following that bizarre incident, Kyle and Tori welcome a baby boy named Brandon into their lives. The story moves forward 10 years. Tori goes to Brandon's room to wake him up for school but finds it empty. Thinking he's playing one of their usual games of hide and seek, she starts whistling to find him. Brandon playfully whistles back, hinting at his hiding spot. She follows the sound to their barn, searching through hay bales but still can't find him. Suddenly, Brandon jumps out and surprises her. Laughing, Tori hugs him tightly, reminding him that he will always be her baby boy. Concerned for Brandon's safety, Kyle joins them outside and gently warns him not to play around in the barn. At school, they ask Brandon to respond to a question about bees and wasps. He confidently explains that bees are pollinators, while wasps are predators. He goes on to talk about a wasp species, Polistes sulcifer, which doesn't build nests and instead makes other wasps raise their young. A classmate named Royce teases him for talking too much, and the class laughs, except for a girl named Caitlin, who encourages Brandon by telling him that smart guys like him will rule the world someday. They exchange smiles. Later that night, Tori is painting when she notices a strange red light coming from the barn. At the same time, Brandon starts having a seizure in his room. Tori hears the noise, but dismisses it as nothing when it ceases. Brandon, now awake, walks out of his window, which makes a loud thud. Tori hears it and checks outside, but doesn't see anything unusual. As she turns back, she feels someone rush past her. Running through the backyard, she sees a glimpse of Brandon disappearing into the night. Concerned, Tori heads to the barn and finds Brandon acting strangely. He's mumbling unfamiliar words and trying to open a chain trap door. She calls out to him, but he doesn't respond. When she touches his shoulder, he snaps out of it, confused. Tori tells him he was sleepwalking and gently leads him back to bed. When Kyle asks what happened, she hides the truth, saying Brandon just wandered downstairs. The next day, Kyle opens up to Brandon, explaining how he felt when they first adopted him. At first, Kyle struggled, but things changed when they bonded over simple moments, like sharing candy. That day, Brandon helps Kyle with the lawn, but when the lawnmower won't start, Brandon gets frustrated and throws it across the yard. Shocked, he stares at his hands, amazed by his strength. The machine ends up upside down, its blades still spinning. Brandon hears strange whispers in his head, urging him to stick his hand into the blades. The blades break, but his hand remains unscathed. For Brandon's 12th birthday, the family celebrates at a diner with Tori's sister, Marilee, and her husband, Noah. Marilee, who also works as Brandon's school counselor, praises him for his intelligence. As a special gift, Noah gives Brandon a hunting rifle, but Kyle quickly takes it away, saying Brandon is too young. Upset, Brandon demands the rifle back, slamming his fist on the table and causing the arcade screens nearby to flicker. When Kyle insists they leave, Brandon doesn't move. Kyle grabs him and the screens flicker again. Tori manages to calm Brandon down, and they leave with a waitress named Erica watching them uneasily. Back at home, Kyle and Tori talk about Brandon's behavior. Tori believes it's just a phase, reminding Kyle of their own wild teenage years. To ease the tension, Kyle suggests they go camping the next day. At breakfast, Brandon acts oddly, chewing on a metal fork. When Kyle pulls it away, Brandon snaps out of it, confused by the bent fork in his hand. While retrieving Brandon's jacket from his room, Tori discovers disturbing pictures beneath his bed. Some show undressed women, while others are of human organs. Kyle and Tori are unsettled but decide to talk to Brandon about it later. On a hunting trip, Kyle tries to have a father-son talk with Brandon, explaining that feelings like attraction are normal. However, Brandon misunderstands, thinking Kyle is encouraging other urges, and the conversation becomes awkward. Meanwhile, at Caitlin's house, she wakes up in the middle of the night to the sound of music playing on her laptop. She closes it, but the music starts again. Nervous, she calls her mother, Erica, who rushes in. Caitlin insists she saw Brandon outside her window, but when Erica checks, there's no one there. The following day, Tori discusses Brandon's behavior with Marilee, who is still concerned about the incident at the diner. Marilee assures her it's probably just puberty. That evening, Kyle hears a commotion in the barn and finds Brandon standing there, watching as the chickens panic. The next morning, Kyle discovers all the chickens dead. He's convinced Brandon was responsible, but Tori refuses to believe it, thinking it must have been a wild animal. At school, during a trust exercise, Caitlin lets Brandon fall on purpose, calling him a pervert for his behavior. Angered, Brandon squeezes her hand so hard that he breaks it. In the principal's office, Caitlin's mom, Erica, demands that Brandon be punished, even suggesting he should be locked up. But when the school decides on a suspension and counseling instead, Erica accuses Tori of not being a proper parent. Tori fiercely defends her son, apologizes, and leaves. Tori and Kyle take Brandon home, but he glares at Erica as they leave. That night, Tori confesses to Kyle that she has been concealing information about Brandon's sleepwalking incidents. Kyle becomes increasingly uneasy, telling Tori that Brandon isn't like other kids, and he fears what he might do. Meanwhile, Brandon starts to understand the whispers he's been hearing. One stormy night, he sneaks out to the barn. Tori, searching for answers, follows the red light to the barn and finds Brandon floating above the trapdoor, glowing. Panicked, she tries to reach him, but he falls, cutting himself on something hidden there, a strange alien ship. Tori notices Brandon's injuries and comforts him as he begins to inquire about his true identity. She finally confesses the truth. They found him inside the alien craft that crashed years ago. Feeling betrayed by the lies, Brandon runs outside, piecing together the whispers he has heard. Take the world. His eyes glow a bright, threatening red, as if something dark and powerful has awakened inside him. Now fully aware of his dark nature, Brandon makes a chilling and sinister appearance. That night, he sneaks into Caitlin's room, trying to make amends by offering her flowers. Despite his gesture, Caitlin is terrified. He assures her that she shouldn't be afraid because she knows he is special. When she tells him that her mother, Erica, has forbidden her from speaking to him, Brandon coldly replies that he will handle it. Meanwhile, Erica is at work, closing up the diner. She notices strange symbols drawn on the windows, assuming it's a prank, and calls out for her coworker, Gary. Suddenly, the lights start flickering, and a bulb bursts, sending a shard of glass straight into her eye. With blood streaming down her face, Erica painfully pulls out the glass, only to find herself surrounded by darkness. Terrified, she grabs a baseball bat, locking herself in the freezer, hoping to stay safe. Soon, a hot red laser penetrates the metal door, forcing it open, revealing a figure in a cape and mask, his eyes glowing red. It's Brandon, and he shows no mercy as he kills her. The next morning, Kyle and Tori wait anxiously for Brandon at breakfast. They're worried about his odd behavior, but when Brandon joins them, he appears calm, as if accepting his true self. Meanwhile, the sheriff investigates Erica's disappearance at the diner and discovers a strange symbol on the window, which he connects to Brandon. During a counseling session with Marilee, who is also his aunt, Brandon's chilling arrogance surfaces. He has begun to see himself as superior after learning about his extraterrestrial origins. Marilee probes further, trying to make him open up, but Brandon becomes angry and defensive. She tells him that as a counselor, she must report his behavior to the sheriff, which clearly agitates him. Elsewhere, Kyle is at a bar with friends, and the conversation turns to Erica's mysterious death. One of his friends, EJ, hints that Brandon might have had something to do with it, recalling the incident with Caitlin. Though EJ apologizes for the implication, Kyle's worries grow. Noah, Marilee's husband, assures him that all kids can be troublesome, trying to downplay Brandon's behavior. However, later that evening, Brandon visits Marilee at her home. He subtly threatens her, trying to stop her from talking to the sheriff, but she stands her ground, firmly telling him to leave. Though Brandon leaves, his menacing smile leaves a chill in the air. Unbeknownst to Marilee, Brandon is lurking in the shadows, watching her as she sends a message to Noah before bed. Noah arrives home later, and while brushing his teeth, he senses something behind him. Startled, he sees Brandon's masked figure reflected in the bathroom mirror. Confused, he drags Brandon outside, intending to take him home. Brandon warns Noah not to tell anyone about this encounter, but Noah dismisses the threat. As they get into the truck, the lights flicker ominously. Brandon seems to disappear and shoots laser beams at Noah, injuring him. A terrified Noah tries to drive away, but Brandon attacks the truck, forcing it to crash. Noah desperately tries to restart the car, but when the headlights flicker on, he sees Brandon standing directly in front of him. Moments later, Brandon lifts the entire truck, dropping it from a height, causing a catastrophic crash that leaves Noah severely injured. Using Noah's blood, Brandon paints a symbol on the road, marking his presence. Back at home, Tori is panic-calling Marilee while Kyle waits for Brandon. When he finally arrives, he acts calm, but hides a blood-stained shirt, making up a story about being bullied at soccer. Tori and Kyle sense something is wrong but feel helpless, knowing they can't take their alien son to a specialist.
What? And say what to him?
Kyle is haunted by his growing belief that Brandon is a danger, not meant to be part of the human world. Later at the hospital, Kyle and Tori visit a distressed Marilee, who informs them that Brandon visited her before Noah's accident. Shocked and alarmed, the couple confronts Brandon the next morning. His lack of emotion over Noah's death further confirms Kyle's suspicions. In a heated argument, Brandon denies any wrongdoing, and when Kyle tries to scold him, Brandon throws him across the room, revealing his inhuman strength. Tori intervenes, sending Brandon to his room. Determined to uncover the truth, Kyle searches Brandon's room and finds the blood-stained shirt, which he hides, realizing how dangerous his son has become. Kyle presents the evidence to Tori, but she refuses to accept it, holding onto the hope that Brandon is still their son. Kyle's frustration boils over, and he claims that Brandon isn't truly their child. Hurt by his words, Tori storms off. Meanwhile, the sheriff, investigating Noah's accident, notices the same symbol from Erica's case and starts piecing things together. Tori tries to dismiss his suspicions, but her worries deepen when she finds Brandon's notebook filled with drawings of the same symbols, along with sketches depicting the violent deaths of Erica and Noah. Deciding to take matters into his own hands, Kyle plans a camping trip with Brandon, hoping to reconnect and show his love. Tori, relieved, supports the idea, believing it might change things. During their silent journey in the woods, Kyle's true intentions become clear as he aims a gun at Brandon, tears streaming down his face. But when he pulls the trigger, the bullet bounces off Brandon, who turns around, unscathed and shocked. Panicked, Kyle tries to reload, but Brandon reappears, and attacks his father, who begs for mercy. Ignoring his pleas, Brandon blasts him with his laser vision, finally killing him. Tori calls Kyle, trying to reach him but hears Brandon's voice instead. Refusing to believe her husband is dead, she asks where he is, and Brandon calmly responds that he's home before crushing Kyle's phone. He begins to destroy the house, prompting Tori to call for help. Brandon brutally kills the sheriff and a deputy upon their arrival. A terrified Tori hides, but as she tries to escape, she realizes she can't outrun her son. Desperate, she remembers the moment the alien ship injured Brandon and rushes to the barn. Inside, she finds Erica's dissected body, confirming Brandon's monstrous deeds. In a desperate attempt, Tori seizes a shard of metal from the ship, intending to use it against him. When Brandon arrives, she tries to reach out to him, gently reminding him of the love she once showed him. As he melts into her embrace, she makes her move, but Brandon catches her arm, feeling betrayed. Enraged, he lifts her and flies through the roof of the barn, carrying her high into the sky. For a brief moment, Tori touches his face, pleading for her son to remember his humanity. But Brandon, overwhelmed by betrayal, lets her go, sending her plummeting to her death. The following morning, Brandon, in an attempt to conceal the chaos, orchestrates a plane crash, feigning an accident that claimed the lives of both his parents. When news reporters arrive, they find the wreckage of the plane, with Brandon as the only survivor.
Has crashed in the small town of Brightburn.
He sits there calmly, eating a cookie, pretending to be innocent, hiding the dark truth behind what really happened. That's it for this movie recap. Let us know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.